The next morning brought new horrors, as Zephyrian guards came to move prisoners. Jake watched as they dragged screaming aliens from their cages toward what everyone knew was death. The guards were smaller than Commander's era, but just as frightening, with their insect armor and clicking mandibles. When they reached Jake's cage, he was ready. He had spent the night stretching and preparing his body for whatever came next. Energy bars disappeared and rough hands grabbed him. Jake did not resist, because he needed to conserve his strength. They marched him down long corridors, filled with the sounds of suffering. Other prisoners reached through their cage bars as he passed. Some were human, but many were species Jake had never seen before. All of them looked desperate and afraid. The guards pushed Jake into a larger holding area, where other prisoners waited. He saw Lyra there, along with Dr. Collins, who looked even worse than before. But there were new faces, too. A tall elf woman with short, dark hair and scars on her arms stood near Lyra. This had to be Kira Nightblade, the bodyguard. Lyra had mentioned Kira's eyes burned with anger and shame. She blamed herself for failing to protect her princess. Next to the elves stood a human woman in a pilot's uniform. Her name tag read Lieutenant Beth Harpard. Despite their terrible situation, she managed to look defiant. Her brown hair was messy and her uniform was torn, but her spirit seemed unbroken. She caught Jake's eye and nodded slightly. Here was another human who refused to give up. In the corner of the room sat something Jake had never seen before. It looked like a woman, but her skin was blue and translucent gills fluttered on her neck and her large eyes were completely black. This was Veltana from the Coral Depths Empire. She communicated by making patterns of light appear on her skin. Lyra could understand some of her light language. Evelana told them that her people lived in the deep oceans of distant worlds. The Zephyrians planned to drain their oceans and use their worlds for mining. She was the daughter of an important leader. Her capture would demoralize her people and make them easier to conquer. As the prisoners talked quietly, Jake learned more about the Zephyrian plan. They were not just random raiders. This was organized genocide. The Zephyrians were systematically eliminating the leaders and heroes of different species. Without strong leaders, the various worlds would fall. Easily, Commander Zixthera appeared again and studied the prisoners like a scientist, examining insects. It seemed particularly interested in the humans. It told them that humans were becoming a problem for the Zephyrian Empire. Humans kept doing things that should have been impossible. They survived in conditions that killed other species. They fought back when they should have surrendered. They inspired other species to resist. That was why all humans had to die. The commander selected Jake for special attention. It said Jake would be the first to visit the execution chamber. The others would watch and learn what awaited them. As the guards prepared to take Jake away, Lyra spoke up. She offered herself in exchange for Jake's life. She said her death would be more valuable to the Zephyrians. Zixthera found this amusing. It told her that she would die soon enough, but Jake would go first, because humans needed to learn their place. The guards dragged Jake toward the door, but he managed to catch Beth's eye. She understood immediately. Jake was not giving up. He was buying them time. While the Zephyrians focused on him, the others could plan. Beth had been studying the ship during her imprisonment. She knew the layout and had identified weaknesses. That power systems were centralized. If they could reach the main control room, they could shut down the cages. Kira had found loose metal strips in her cell. With her warrior training, she could turn them into weapons. Dr. Collins knew which chemicals in the medical bay could be mixed to create toxins. Magic was being suppressed by the energy fields, but she had found ways to work around them. Veltana could survive in the ship's water recycling systems. She could move through areas where other species could not go. As Jake was dragged away, he saw the others moving closer together, different species with different abilities, but they were united by their desire to survive and to stop the bay. Zephyrians. Jake felt proud to be human in that moment. Humans had a gift for bringing different people together. They made friends and allies wherever they went. Tevin, here in this nightmare place, humans were building bridges. The execution chamber was exactly as horrible as Jake had imagined it. was a circular room with machines designed to cause maximum pain. Fields would slowly drain the life from a prisoner, while keeping them conscious. Most species died in exactly 10 seconds there. Machines were calibrated perfectly for this commander. Zixthora wanted the executions to be predictable and efficient. Jake was strapped into the machine and could feel the energy fields activating. But he had spent years in the military, learning to control his body under stress. He had trained in meditation and breath control. He had learned to slow his heart rate and enter almost hibernation states. If the machine was calibrated for normal biological responses, then maybe he could confuse it. Jake began to slow his breathing. He relaxed every muscle in his body. He imagined he was floating in calm water. His heart rate dropped, his metabolism slowed. The machine would still kill him, but maybe not in exactly 10 seconds. Maybe he could give his friends the extra time they needed. Commander Zixthora activated the viewing screens so the other prisoners could watch. Jake saw their faces looking back at him. He saw Lyra's tears and Kira's rage. He saw Beth counting silently. He saw Dr. Collins preparing something in her hands. He saw Valtana's skin glowing with urgent patterns. They were ready. They were waiting for his signal. Jake Morrison closed his eyes and prepared to die, but he was going to die as a human, stubborn and defiant to the very end. Machine hummed to life around him. 10 seconds to death unless he could make it 11. Commander Zixthera stood before the execution. Machine with obvious pleasure-its compound eyes reflected the deadly energy that now surrounded Jake Morrison. The machine was the pride of Zephyrian technology. It had killed thousands of prisoners from dozens of species. Each death took exactly 10 seconds, no more and no less. The commander enjoyed the precision of each. "You will die in 10 seconds. The commander sneered at Jake. It said these words to every prisoner. It was a ritual that gave the commander satisfaction. Jake heard the words, but his mind was elsewhere. He was remembering his training from the Earth Defense Corps. Instructors had taught him how to survive in extreme conditions, how to slow his body down when resources were scarce, how to enter a state between life and death. His breathing became shallow and controlled. Each breath was deliberate and measured. His heart rate dropped from normal to dangerously low. Machine began its deadly work. Energy flowed through Jake's body, designed to shut down his organs one by one. But Jake's body was not responding as expected. His metabolism had slowed to almost nothing. The energy that should have killed him in 10 seconds was taking longer. Commander Zixthera watched in growing confusion. Machine's displays showed readings that made no sense. Human biology was not supposed to work this way. On the viewing screens, the other prisoners watched in amazement. Beth Harper was counting the seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Jake's body remained still, but alive. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The machine should have finished its work, but Jake Morrison still breathed. 11. At that moment, everything happened at once. Lyra had been gathering her magic power, despite the suppression fields. She released it all in one burst that overloaded the ship's energy grid. Lights flickered throughout the vessel. The energy cages holding the prisoners began to fail. Kira had sharpened her metal strips into deadly blades. She struck at the nearest guard before it could react. Her elven reflexes and warrior training made her incredibly fast. The guard fell with clicking sounds of pain. Beth had memorized the ship's control systems during her imprisonment. She dove for a maintenance panel and began rewiring connections. Her pilot training included basic engineering. She knew how to disable security systems. Dr. Collins, through the chemical mixture she had prepared, created a toxic cloud that made the Zephyrian guards choke and stumble. Their insect biology was vulnerable to the compounds she had mixed. Valtana moved like liquid through a broken water pipe. Her aquatic body could fit through spaces too small for other species. She reached the ship's communication systems. The Zephyrians had made one crucial mistake. They had underestimated what their prisoners could do when working together. Commander Zixthera realized the execution had become a signal for rebellion, but Jake was still in the machine, still dying just more slowly than expected. The commander tried to increase the machine's power, but Lyra's magic surge had damaged the controls. Jay felt his strength failing. His trick had worked, but only briefly. He was still going to die, but he had given his friends the time they needed. Kira fought her way to the execution chamber. Her blades cut through Zephyrian armor like it was paper sheet, reached the machine controls and began smashing them. The deadly energy field around Jake began to weaken. Collins appeared with a medical kit she had stolen from a supply room. She began treating Jake's injuries while Kira held off more guards. Jake's breathing was so shallow he seemed dead, but Collins could detect a faint pulse. His human stubbornness had kept him alive when any other species would have died. Beth's sabotage had opened all the prison cells throughout the ship. Hundreds of prisoners from dozens of worlds poured into the corridors. The ship, filled with the sounds of battle, species that had never met before, fought side by side against their captors, humans. Lead charges with reckless bravery. Elves used magic to devastating effect. Aquatic aliens flooded sections of the ship. Creatures with natural weapons tore through Zephyrian defenses. Philona had reached the communication era her people had been waiting. In hidden ships at the edge of the system, she sent the signal that would bring reinforcements, but she also sent a message that would reach human and elven space: the location of the prison ship, the truth about Zephyrian genocide, evidence that would unite the galaxy against this threat. Commander Zextara retreated to the bridge as its ship fell into chaos. Had never seen anything like this. Coordinated rebellion, different species working together with perfect coordination, and at the center of it all were the humans. Impossible, stubborn humans who refused to die when they should. Jake Morrison began to stir as Dr. Collins worked on him. His vital signs were stabilizing. The execution machine had done terrible damage to his body, but human biology was proving more resilient than anyone expected. Lyra knelt beside him as he opened his eyes. She told him what his sacrifice had accomplished, how taking 11 seconds instead of 10 had given them the time they needed. Jake tried to smile, but his face hurt too much. He asked if the others were safe. Lyra told him they were not just safe, they were winning. The prison ship was falling to the freed prisoners and help was coming from across the galaxy. Jake closed his eyes again, but not in defeat and satisfaction. He had done what humans do best. He had refused to give up. He had exceeded expectations. He had inspired others to do the impossible. The battle for the ship continued around them, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. The Z had made a fatal error. They had given their enemies a common cause. They had underestimated the human factor, the simple, stubborn refusal to accept defeat. Jake Morrison had taken 11 seconds to die instead of 10, and in that extra second he had changed everything. The rebellion spread through the void. Talon like wildfire. Jake Morrison was carried to the ship's medical bay by Lyra and Dr. Collins. His body was badly damaged, but his spirit remained strong. He insisted on staying conscious to help coordinate the prisoner uprising. The medical bay had become a command center where different species worked together. Beth Harper had connected the communication systems to show them what was happening throughout the ship. The displays revealed hundreds of freed prisoners fighting Zephyrian guards, but they also showed something else: hidden detention levels that none of them had known about. Down in the deepest parts of the ship were more prisoners, important prisoners that the Zephyrians had kept secret. Kira volunteered to lead a rescue mission to the lower levels. She took a team of freed prisoners from various species. What they found there changed everything. Captain Lisa Stone was chained in a cell that had been designed for maximum security. She was human, but unlike any human the others had met, her muscles were like steel cables under scarred skin. Her eyes held the kind of hardness that came from months of torture. She had been a Marine officer before her capture. The Zephyrians had been trying to break her spirit for half a year. They had failed completely when Kira cut her chains. Lisa Stone stood up slowly. Her first words were asking about her unit. She wanted to know if any of her Marines had survived. Kira had to tell her that Lisa was the only survivor they had found. Lisa absorbed this news without showing emotion, but her hands clenched into fists that could break bones. In the next cell they found another elf. This one was different from Lyra. in every way where Lyra was diplomatic and gentle, this elf radiated dangerous power. Her name was Arya Stardust, and she was a battle mage. The Zephyrians had kept her in a special cage that blocked all magic, but now that the ship's power systems were damaged, her abilities were returning. When Arya stepped out of her cell, the air around her began to glow. Urgi crackled between her fingers, her eyes burned with magical fire. She had been planning revenge for every day of her imprisonment. The rescue team brought Lisa and Arya back to the medical bay. Jake was amazed by these new allies. Lisa Stone represented everything that made humans dangerous. She was tough beyond reason and absolutely refused to surrender. Arya represented the full power of elven magic unleashed in combat. They made the prisoner rebellion into something far more deadly. Lisa immediately took charge of the military aspects of their escape. She had been studying Zephyrian tactics during her imprisonments. She knew their weaknesses and how to exploit them. Insect aliens were strong, but they relied too much on their technology. Took away their advantages, and they became vulnerable. Arya began teaching the other prisoners how to use captured Zephyrian weapons. Her magic could enhance their natural abilities. Human reflexes became superhuman. Elven grace became deadly precision. Even the aquatic aliens became formidable fighters on dry land. Harper worked with the ship's computers to map out Zephyrian positions. Her pilot training included tactical analysis. She could see the patterns in their defense, where they were strong and where they were weak. Dark Collins used her knowledge of alien biology to create more effective weapons. She mixed chemicals that were specifically toxic to Zephyrian physiology. She also treated wounded prisoners and kept them fighting. Lyra served as diplomat and coordinator. Her royal training helped her unite different species under one command. She spoke multiple languages and understood various cultures. Her gentle manner made even the most savage aliens willing to cooperate. Ablana had become their intelligence expert. She could move through the ship's water systems. Unseen, she mapped out safe routes and enemy positions. Her people's natural sonar abilities let her detect through walls. As the battle continued, Jake began to see something remarkable happening. The female prisoners had naturally formed the core of their resistance. She brought unique strengths that complemented the others. Lisa's military experience provided strategy and disciplinary as magic gave them overwhelming firepower. Beth's technical skills kept their equipment working. Collins' scientific knowledge gave them tactical advantages. Lyra's diplomacy held their alliance together. Velita's intelligence kept them one step ahead of their enemies. Even Kira, with her warrior skills, served as their scout and assassin. Jake realized that the Zephyrians had made a terrible mistake. They had captured the most capable women from multiple species. These were leaders and heroes and experts in their fields. Putting them all together in one place had created the perfect storm. The women worked together with an efficiency that amazed him. They seemed to understand each other without needing many words. Different species, but united in their determination to survive and win as they fought their way toward the ship's bridge. Jake felt proud to be human, proud to be part of this incredible group. The Zephyrians had thought they were eliminating threats to their empire. Instead, they had created the core of an alliance that would destroy them. Commander Zixthera sent reinforcements to try to stop the rebellion, but every new attack was defeated. The prisoners had become an army, and at its heart were women who refused to be victims. They had turned the Void Talon from a prison ship into a weapon that would be used against the very empire that created it. Jake Morrison watched these amazing women and knew something important. Humans were stubborn and tough, but they were at their best when working with others. The galaxy was full of incredible species with amazing abilities. Together, they could accomplish anything, even defeating an empire that thought it was invincible. The battle for the bridge was about to begin, but Jake was no longer worried about the outcome. With allies like these, humans could not lose. The Zephyrians were about to learn what happened when you united the galaxy against you. They were about to discover the true meaning of resistance, and it would start with one human who took 11 seconds to die instead of 10. The final assault on the bridge began with Arya Stardust leading the charge. Her battle magic tore through Zephyrian defenses like they were made of paper. Energy bolts flew from her hands, while protective shields surrounded her allies behind her. Came Captain Lisa Stone with a squad of freed prisoners. Her marine training had turned them into a disciplined fighting force that moved with precision and deadly efficiency. Jake Morrison walked with them despite his injuries. Dar Collins had given him stimulants that kept him on his feet. His presence inspired the other prisoners. The human who had defied death itself was still fighting Beth. Harper stayed in the rear, coordinating their attack through the ship's systems. She had gained control of internal defenses and turned them against the Zephyrian citadel turrets that had once guarded the bridge, now fired on their former masters. Lyra moved between the different groups, offering encouragement and guidance. Her royal bearing gave their rebellion legitimacy. She was no longer just a prisoner. She was a leader fighting for freedom. Veltana had reached the ship's external communication array. Her message was spreading across the galaxy. Human fleets were receiving coordinates for the prison ship. Elven forces were mobilizing for war. The coral depths Empire was sending reinforcements. Commanders Xterra waited on the bridge with its remaining loyal guards. The insect alien had activated the ship's self-destruct system. If it could not have victory, it would have revenged. The bridge doors exploded inward as Arya's magic shattered them. The final battle began. Immediately, Zephyrian guards fought with desperate fury. Their energy weapons filled the air with deadly light, but the prisoners had become something more than individuals. They fought as one organism with perfect coordination. Lisa Stone's tactics were flawless. Magic was devastating. The alien prisoners used abilities the Zephyrians had never seen before. Jake found himself face to face with Commanders Xterra. Alien that had tried to execute him now faced him in final combat. The commander was larger and stronger. Its forearms gave it advantages no human could match. But Jake had something the Zephyrian could not understand. He had the support of friends from across the galaxy. As they fought, Lyra used her magic to enhance Jake's abilities. Dr. Collins had given him drugs that pushed his human physiology beyond normal limits. Beth provided tactical information through their communication system. Even wounded and exhausted, Jake began to gain the advantage. The commander could not believe what it was seeing. Weak human defeating a Zephyrian warrior. This was impossible according to everything they knew, but Jake Morrison was proving that humans specialized in the impossible. The other battles around the bridge were ending in victory for the prisoner. Zephyrian resistance was collapsing. Their rigid tactics could not adapt to the chaos the prisoners brought, but Commander Xterra had one final weapon. The self-destruct countdown was reaching its final moments. You have 10 seconds before this ship explodes, the commander hissed it. Thought this would make Jake surrender, but Jake looked around at his incredible allies, human and elf and alien, working together, proving that cooperation was stronger than conquest. He smiled at the commander with genuine humor. Then, I guess we will just have to do it in 11. At that moment, space around the void Talon erupted. In light, Admiral Kate Rivers arrived with a human battle fleet. Her ships had followed Veltana's coordinates across space. At the same time, elven vessels appeared, led by High Mage Seraphina. Goldleaf Lyra's mother had brought the full power of the Silverleaf Consortium. The space battle that followed was brief and decisive. The prison ship's weapons turned against the Zephyrian escort fleet. Beth had given the new arrivals complete control of the ship's systems. Commander Xterra tried to activate the self-destruct manually, but Jake was ready for this. His human reflexes, enhanced by elven magic and alien chemistry, were fast. Disabled the destruct mechanism with 1 second to spare. The commander collapsed into Feti's Empire's greatest prison ship had become a symbol of resistance. The rebellion spread from ship to ship and world to world. Jake Morrison became a legend across the galaxy. The human who took 11 seconds to die, who turned defeat into victory through simple, stubborn refusal to give up. Bet Jake knew the truth. Victory had not come from human stubbornness alone. It had come from cooperation from different species, working together from the refusal to let evil divide them. The Zephyrian Empire crumbled within months. Their victims had learned to unite against them. Humans provided leadership and inspiration. Elves brought wisdom, and magical aquatic species controlled the space lanes. As dozens of other species contributed their unique abilities, the first Galactic Alliance was born. From the rebellion on the Void, Talon Jake Morrison was offered high rank in the new organization, but he preferred to serve as an ambassador, helping different species understand each other, building the bridges that would keep them united. Lyra became the Alliance's first diplomatic minister. Her experience with different cultures made her perfect for the role. She and Jake worked together to prevent future conflicts. Captain Lisa Stone formed the Alliance Marine Corps. Her motto was simple: nobody gets left behind. Arya Stardust established schools for magical combat. She taught young people from all species how to defend themselves. Dar Collins continued her research, but now she studied how different species could work together. Her findings helped create new technologies and treatments. Beth Harper designed the Alliance's first truly integrated starships, vessels that could be operated by crews from multiple species. Veltona returned to her people as an ambassador. She helped bring the Coral Depths Empire fully into the Alliance. The Zephyrian survivors were offered a choice: join the Alliance and learn cooperation, or face exile to the furthest regions of space. Most chose to join. They learned that working together was better than Later, Jake Morrison would tell the story to young Alliance officers. He would explain how victory came not from superior weapons or tactics, but from the simple human trait of refusing to accept defeat, and from the even more important trait of making friends. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders, but the greatest wonder was what happened when different peoples worked as one. Jake would always end his story the same way. He would remind his listeners that humans were at their best when helping others, that courage was contagious, that hope could spread faster than fear, and that sometimes taking just one extra second could change everything. The human who took 11 seconds to die had lived to see the galaxy united, and he knew that this was just the beginning. There were other threats out there, other empires that thought conquest was the answer, but they would face something they had never encountered before: a galaxy that refused to be divided. A coalition of species that would stand together by humans who never knew when to quit. The legend would spread to every world of the prison ship that became a symbol of freedom, of the Alliance born from rebellion, and of the human who proved that taking 11 seconds instead of 10 could save the universe.